Tesla to cut 10% of jobs. Sarawak delicacies proposed as national heritage food. No more PT3 exams. Those are the headlines for tonight. I'm Handy Gui and this is TVS Nightline. Tesla chief executive Elon Musk told top managers he had a super bad feeling about the economy and that the electric car maker needed to cut staff by about 10%. The email titled "Pause All Hiring Worldwide" was sent to Tesla executives on Thursday, June 3rd, highlighting an increasingly dismal global economic outlook, with prices rising and the Ukraine war approaching its 100th day.
The message from Musk came shortly after Jamie Dimon, chairman and chief executive of JP Morgan Chase, said the U.S. economy faced challenges akin to a hurricane. On Tuesday, Musk told staff to return to the workplace or leave the company, a demand that has already faced pushback in Germany, where the company has a new factory. Musk's comments were ridiculed in a series of tweets from Australia tech billionaire and Atlassian co-founder Scott Farquhar, who said the directive was like something out of the 1950s. Musk has warned in recent weeks about the risk of a recession, but his email ordering a hiring freeze and staff cuts was the most direct and high-profile message of its kind from the head of an automaker. So far, demand for Tesla cars and other electric vehicles has remained strong, and many of the traditional indicators of a downturn, including increasing dealer inventories and incentives in the United States, have not materialized. But Tesla has struggled to restart production at its Shanghai factory after COVID-19 lockdowns forced costly outages at the plant. Before Musk's warning, Tesla had about 5,000 job postings on LinkedIn, from sales in Tokyo and engineers at its new Berlin Gigafactory to deep learning scientists in Palo Alto. Tesla employed around 100,000 people at the end of 2021, according to its annual SEC filing.
Two of Sarawak's most famous delicacies, laksa Sarawak and mee kolok, have been proposed by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture to be listed and recognized as national heritage food. Its Minister, Dato' Sri Nancy Shukri, said, besides the two dishes, Sarawak's burasak, borongko and nubalaya were also proposed in an effort to promote and preserve the country's culinary heritage. Laksa Sarawak and mee kolok are widely found dishes in Sarawak due to their popularity and are without a doubt two of the most famous Sarawakian dishes among locals and even tourists. Nubalaya, a rice dish wrapped in leaf, is from the Kelabit community, while the burasak and borongko are both delicacies that originated from the Bugis community. Nancy noted that a total of 213 foods in the country have been declared as national heritage foods. And among the 213, 9 of them are Sarawak delicacies, namely manok pansoh, umay, bubur pedas Sarawak, sayur midin goreng, Sarawak kek lapis, kelupis, tebaloy, celorot, and penyaram. Now, the Form 3 assessment PT3 exam will be abolished effective this year. Education Minister Rodzi Jidin said the ministry would be improving school-based assessment, which includes classroom-based, physical, sport, co-curricular, and psychometric assessments to determine students' performance in their studies. The decision came after the Primary School Achievement Test (UPSR) was abolished last year. The PT3 exam was not held for the past 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In a press conference, Rodzi said the ministry would implement summative assessments and work on improving school-based and classroom-based assessments instead. He said, Teachers would regularly conduct assessments to evaluate students' mastery and understanding of the respective subjects. Earlier this year, Rodzi said no decision had been made on the PT3 as the ministry was still determining the best approach to assess students. Now, the Cabinet has agreed in principle to 3 matters under the proposed parliamentary reform. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Parliament, Dato Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar said these matters, discussed at its meeting on Wednesday, June 1st, involve the formulation of the Parliamentary Services Act, amendments to the House of Parliament for Privileges and Powers Act 1952, Act 347, and draft of the Code of Ethics for Members of Parliaments. He said the proposed Parliamentary Services Act would consider setting up the Parliamentary Services Commission as part of the Parliament administration, which has autonomy to determine policies and governance of the Parliament of Malaysia. Among the matters to be studied are the proposals to set up a parliamentary services scheme and obtain financial resources and an annual budget for Parliament from the Consolidated Fund regulated by the Parliamentary Services Commission itself, in line with the principle of separation of powers. According to Wan Junaidi, the Parliamentary Services Act 1963 was repealed via the Constitutional Amendment Act 1992, effective November 20 of 1993, where the abolition was to meet the need then to open the closed parliamentary service to the federal public service. Wan Junaidi said amendments to the House of Parliament for Privileges and Power Act 1952 were seen as important to make the Act more relevant and suitable to the current situation. He said the Act was formulated in 1952 as the House of Parliament for Privileges and Power Ordinance 1952 and amended in 1953 before it was enforced in the same year. Then, in 1988, a review was made to change the ordinance into the existing Act 347. Malaysia has to consider 3 factors before calling for a general election. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the 3 factors are the country's readiness in terms of public health, the momentum of the economic recovery, and political considerations. However, Khairi noted that the timing is entirely the prerogative of the Prime Minister. Khairi, who is in Singapore for 4 days since March 31, 2022, as Lee Kuan Yew Exchange Fellow said this when asked about Prime Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob's statement yesterday that he will not delay even for a second the dissolution of the Parliament once BN Barisan Nasional is fully prepared. On economic recovery, he said Malaysia is lucky in the sense that it is a producing country even though it is currently confronted with some inflationary pressure. On political consideration, the Rembau Member of Parliament said BN itself should be ready to face the election. Meanwhile, on the timing to have a general election, Khairi reiterated that a recovery in both economy and health is very important. Coming up after the break, photographer takes part in forest conservation, tougher U.S. gun laws after mass shootings. Right here on TVS Nightline, stay tuned. Welcome back. Following a report on the alleged shortage of medicine, the Ministry of Health has clarified that there had been a sharp increase in demand for products with the active ingredient paracetamol for fever and mild pains, vitamin C, as well as cough and cold medicine for children. But they added that no product was experiencing total supply disruption, as most of the products have alternatives from other brands. Elaborating, Health Ministry's Senior Director of Pharmaceutical Services Noor Haliza Halim said this was the feedback from pharmaceutical industry players during a meeting with the Malaysian Organisation of Pharmaceutical Industries MOPI, Pharmaceutical Association of Malaysia, and Malaysia Association of Pharmaceutical Suppliers. Adding to that, she said manufacturers have also increased their production capacity to meet the high demands. The ministry was seeking feedback from the industry on the actual status of the supply of medicines produced in Malaysia or imported, as well as related issues. She said every issue would be examined through constant communication between the ministry and industry to ensure the continuity of quality, safe, and effective medicines for Malaysians. Meanwhile, on a related matter, the Malaysian Medical Association MMA has advised the public not to resort to panic buying of medicines in light of the recent shortage of certain medications in the market. MMA said the panic buying had been happening since countries started emerging from COVID-19 lockdowns and resumed economic activities. Apart from the resumption of economic activities after lockdowns, MMA President Dr. Koh Kar Chai said the unprecedented demand for common medications brought on by the high incidence rate of the Omicron variant had caught pharmaceutical manufacturers and distributors off guard.
Orang ramai diminta supaya jangan panik dan membeli ubat-ubatan semata-mata untuk disimpan sebab takut kekurangan ubat. Belilah apa saja ubat yang memang diperlukan supaya situasi kekurangan ubat tidak diburukkan lagi.
Koh said the pharmaceutical industry had responded to the surge in demand by placing higher orders for products from manufacturers overseas. However, as the shortage was a worldwide problem, imports of both finished products as well as raw materials had been affected. Local manufacturers scrambled to increase their manufacturing capacities, which were also dependent on raw materials sourced from other countries, and their capacity to ramp up production.
Selain dari kekurangan ubat yang diimport dari luar negara, kilang-kilang ubat di Malaysia juga kekurangan bahan-bahan mentah yang diperlu untuk membuat ubat-ubatan. Lagipun ada kemungkinan yang pembekalan dan permintaan ubat tidak sepadan. Kami berharap bahawa situasi ini akan dapat dibetulkan dalam masa yang singkat.
Last year, the Forest Research Institute of Malaysia said more than 500 plant species in the Malaysian peninsula have been classified as threatened, alarmed by Malaysia's loss of plant species from deforestation. Photographer Suzairi Zakaria decided he needed to take direct action to conserve them in his home state of Terengganu. According to data from US-based Global Forest Watch shows, Malaysia, swathed in rainforest rich in biodiversity, has lost about 29% of tree cover since 2001 because of activities such as palm cultivation and logging. Suzairi said he had converted his backyard into a conservatory for endangered species to safeguard thousands of plants, especially wild orchids.
Salah satu sebab yang mendorong saya menyelamatkan terutamanya spesies orkid di tempat pembalakan ini adalah apabila saya pergi, saya tengok kebanyakan spesies orkid atau tumbuhan lain ini mati kering. Jadi saya rasa amat rugilah kalau dibiarkan begitu. Jadi saya fikir lebih baik saya selamatkan dan bawa balik untuk tanam di rumah, dan dalam masa yang sama saya boleh rekodkan spesies yang ada di Terengganu. Kadang-kadang ada spesies orkid tu yang belum ada nama lagi. Jadi apabila kita tak lakukan usaha menyelamat ataupun konservasi, jadi kita tak tahu kewujudan spesies tersebut. Jadi satu kerugian besar kepada negara lah saya ingat.
Noticing the havoc caused by logging, Suzairi said he has helped conserve more than 2,000 plants since 2015. Among them, more than 200 types of wild orchids prized for their bold colors. His conservation work is self-funded through sales of his rainforest photographs. The effort has also helped researchers and enthusiasts identify and document plants for future reference.
Inilah yang kita perhatikan ada pada DOM sebab dia bermula daripada nature photographer and then dia slowly link dengan universiti, dengan saintis untuk belajar. Dan dia belajar secara self-learn saja, dia belajar sendirilah maksudnya kan. Dan daripada situ kita dapati bakat ni sangat kata rare kan, jarang kita jumpa, dan dia boleh bawa pengetahuan sains yang dia ada tu kepada masyarakat.
Suzairi has acquired knowledge of the rainforest and its plants from his work documenting the lives of one of the country's oldest nomadic tribes, the indigenous Batek group. Last week, Putrajaya had said it would halt all chicken exports from June until production and cost stabilize amid soaring prices of chicken feed. As such, the ban on chicken export by Malaysia came into effect on Wednesday, June 1st. Chicken feed is typically made up of grain and soybean, which Malaysia imports. However, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and uncertain weather patterns have created a global shortage. Chicken farm owner Shaizul, who started feeling the pinch of higher operating costs during the COVID-19 pandemic, says the export ban will only make things worse for poultry farmers.
Schedule changes due to slow growth of chicken. The slow growth of chicken is affected by feed quality as well. This feed quality is a global issue where the rising cost of feed material from abroad has forced some feed millers to adjust their feed level, unlike what we had previously back before MCO. So that's the difference between now and 2 years back.
To him, a ban would have further damaging consequences.
So if we create an export ban, Singapore, or I don't mean Singapore, I mean any country that we export to, they can just switch to another country supplier. So it's really hard for us to get them back to buy for us later in the future. So this export ban will definitely be temporary solution, but we have a long. At this moment, we cannot sustain anymore. If we are to absorb even more losses, take even more loan, I think I'm better off driving Grab. So that means I won't be in this business anymore.
Singapore imports 34% of its chicken supply from Malaysia, according to the Singapore Food Agency, SFA. On the island nation, there is worry among proprietors of chicken rice stalls about the ability to pivot quickly and keep their business running. Daniel Tan, a chicken rice stall owner, said the ban was catastrophic and would affect production of the de facto national dish.
Most chicken rice stores, if not 100% of chicken rice stores, all use fresh chicken rice, basically imported live, slaughtered. So the ban would mean we are no longer able to sell. It's like McDonald's with no burgers, or maybe Coca-Cola without Coke.
As such, Tan said exporters had been working to bring extra supplies of chicken in before the ban, and they would rely on chilled chicken for around 2 weeks.
We will be selling live, fresh chickens until Wednesday perhaps. From Thursday onwards, will be chilled chicken. That means the same chickens that you like, but it has come in over the past 1 week. We will still be selling them probably till the next 2 weeks. They are in the chillers right now. Professional chillers, not ours. So at some point, the chickens will run out. We are expecting from past experience, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. From that point onwards, we will probably have to do frozen chickens. Yeah, frozen as in the ones in the supermarket from Brazil.
Thank you for staying with me. Now, Malaysia's export prices in April 2022 remain steady with an increase of 1.1% in March 2022. The Department of Statistics Malaysia DOSM also said the import unit value index registered an increase of 2.4%, outpacing the export unit value index, resulting in a 1.4% drop in Malaysia's terms of trade. Chief Statistician Dato Sri Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahidin said the growth in the export unit value index was supported by the increases in the index of animal and vegetable oils and fats, machinery and transport equipment and chemicals. Conversely, the export value index fell 4.1% in the same month. On an annual comparison, Muhammad Uzair said both the export unit value and volume index continued to grow. He said the performance of the import unit value index was contributed by the increase in the index of mineral fuels, animal and vegetable oils and fats, as well as machinery and transport equipment. Additionally, he said the import volume index declined 3.3% in April 2022 as compared to the previous month. Meanwhile, on a year-on-year YOY basis, Muhammad Uzair pointed out that both the import unit value and volume indices rose 10.7% and 10.2% respectively. Malaysia's terms of trade depleted by 1.4% month-on-month in April 2022, contributed by the decreases in the index of mineral fuels and inedible crude materials. On a YOY basis, Malaysia's terms of trade performance showed positive growth of 6.9% from April last year. Wrapping up the Nightline, United States President Joe Biden urged Congress to pass tougher gun laws in the wake of a recent mass shooting in Texas, where an 18-year-old gunman legally purchased and carried an assault rifle which he used to kill 19 students and 2 teachers.
According to new data just released by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, guns are the #1 killer of children in the United States of America. The #1 killer. More than car accidents, more than cancer. Over the last 2 decades, more school-age children have died from guns than on-duty police officers and active-duty military combined. Think about that. More kids than on-duty cops killed by guns. More kids than soldiers killed by guns. For God's sake, how much more carnage are we willing to accept? How many more innocent American lives must be taken before we say enough, enough?
He called on Congress to make real changes in the country's gun laws, including banning assault weapons.
We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And if we can't ban assault weapons, then we should raise the age to purchase them from 18 to 21. Strengthen background checks, enact safe storage law and red flag laws. Repeal the immunity that protects gun manufacturers from liability. Address the mental health crisis, deepening the trauma of gun violence and as a consequence of that violence. These are rational, common sense measures. Here's what it all means. It all means this. We should reinstate the assault weapons ban on high-capacity magazines that we passed in 1994 with bipartisan support in Congress and the support of law enforcement. 9 categories of semi-automatic weapons were included in that ban, like AK-47s and AR-15s. And in the 10 years it was law, mass shootings went down. But after Republicans let the law expire in 2004, and those weapons were allowed to be sold again, mass shootings tripled. Those are the facts.
Biden made reference to the Buffalo, New York mass shooting, where another 18-year-old gunman used an assault weapon to kill 10 people at a grocery store. He also referred to other deadly mass shootings in the U.S. over the past several decades, including Columbine High School in Colorado, Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, and Parkland High School in Florida.
There are too many other schools, too many other everyday places that have become killing fields, battlefields here in America.
Biden also called on lawmakers to ban high-capacity magazines, expand background checks, and enact safe storage and red flag laws, as well as repeal gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. Don't forget to tune in to Sejahtera Asia tomorrow on the topic of enhancing creative arts through literature with guest Azila Sibi, a teacher specializing in intellectual segment, and Dahiri Saini, an author and scriptwriter. 7:30 a.m. on Astro Channel 122 and My Freeview. And that is all for TVS Nightline. Stay up to date with the top stories via our website at TVSTVMY and follow our social media platforms for the latest news and entertainment. Once again, I'm Handy Gui. It's been a pleasure.